This regular board meeting will be recorded and uploaded to our district website. The definitive documentation decisions of the board, though, are not held within the recording. They're held within the minutes of our meetings, which are public documents once approved. Any use of electronic devices such as a computer or cell phone during the course of our regular meeting is related to the business of the meeting. So I'd like to call to order the meeting of Monday, March the 13th, to order at 5:30. And I'd like to acknowledge that today's meeting is being held within the traditional territory of Virginia Valley and Treaty 8. Looking at item 2 on our agenda, I'm looking for a mover and seconder related to the agenda for our meeting. Moved by David, seconded by Ida. Are there any additions? Calling the question then, all in favor of the agenda as presented? Presentations and delegations, we don't have any. We are going to move on to item 4 on our agenda, which is trustee input and celebrations. And we'll start with trustee Campbell.
Thank you. I've gone to my schools, I've gone to the PAC meetings. I had to miss one of the PAC meetings because it was tonight. And we had our board advance that I attended. But what I'd like to do tonight is I'd like to give a shout out to the District of Taylor, because they're the community for our early dismissal days on Wednesday, March 15th. They're going to host a board game bonanza. And on Thursday, March 16th, they're having a movie madness screening. And this includes, it's free to anyone to attend. And this includes snacks for the kids. And I think that, you know, the district does this to help with our schools, and we partnership with them a lot of things. And I'd just like tonight to thank them for all they do for our school community.
Very much. Great. And trustee Gillis was to be joining us via Zoom. Okay. Well, that wasn't intention. We'll go back to her if she does finally. Vice Chair Lehman?
Well, I was actually away from family emergencies and made it back to the board advance. It was a good day of data walk and connecting and planning ahead.
Trustee Scott Moncrief.
I've been in regular contact with my administrators. Everything's going quite well. All looking forward to a little bit of a break. Looking forward to going out to the Bluebird this Thursday. So lots of us can meet out there. So very excited about that.
And Trustee Snow sends his regrets tonight, but I'm happy for him. Trustee Whitten.
So I believe I mentioned this in the last one, but I went skiing with one of the schools. It was great. I ended up breaking a toe that day. But all in all, it was a great time. It was great to get out with the kids, see what they're doing, watch them grow in a different way than the regular classroom would. Central School play was absolutely amazing. The kids did Aristocats at the Cultural Center. It was absolutely fantastic. It's always mind-blowing to see the kids, even at grade 6, their skill level, their vocal range, all of that kind of stuff. It was really exciting. The data walk was really informative. Some really cool and interesting tidbits came out of that I think gave us a lot of focus.
So on behalf of the board, I attended both the DPAC and the SUPAC meeting last week. I did do the BCSTA's virtual training, session 2 on governance. Session 1 and session 2, if you go through the weekly, you can access those now. I attended the board advance, and I've been having some fun doing some preschool reading sessions. It's the joy that 5-year-olds have about the concept that they're going to get to come to school is quite uplifting. And I got to see Finch Science Fair projects, and we did do the appreciation lunch in Hudson's Hope for all of the extraordinary efforts they had to make due to the fire evacuation. And like Thomas, I enjoyed the Aristocats, and it gave me a much needed winter lift. There was a joy of people being back in the theater, and just, it was a very good time. So something I needed this week.
Last week. I forgot to say that I had gone to the band fundraiser.
Oh,
And I couldn't believe the amount of support they had there that evening. It was a great evening, and it was very well attended.
and they're looking for some more creative ways to come up with the money to go. So I'm sure we'll hear more from them off to Niagara Falls. All right. Agenda item number 5, we're looking at the minutes of our regular board meeting of February the 21st, and it is page 6 to 13 in your agenda package. Please get a mover and a seconder. Moved by Thomas, seconded by Ida. Are there any errors or omissions? Calling the question in, all in favor? Minutes are approved. Business arising from the minutes. There are some ongoing items. Some of the items have been complete. We do have the support document from Jared Bell related to reporting. Stephen will provide us with further information as that policy comes into effect. And I do have a draft of the letter done for City Council. Share that with you, Thomas, after the meeting, and we'll figure out how and where and when. On that, and as you saw in your agenda package for this meeting, some of the requests that trustees made last meeting about further information going into things has gone on. The disclaimer that we wanted to add to the beginning of our meeting was put in place for today. Is there any other business that anybody sees arising from those minutes? And moving on to item number 6 on your agenda, approval of the excerpts of the regular board meeting of January the 23rd, which is page number 14 in your agenda package. Get a mover and a seconder, please, for that. Moved by Ida, seconded by Thomas. Any errors or omissions? Calling the question in, all in favor? Moving on to our announcements and reminders section. I have reached out to Kevin Frankham related to the science fair because they were talking about having an awards evening, but I didn't have a response back as to whether that was scheduled or not. If it is scheduled, I will let you know, and hopefully we could get somebody in attendance at that. I may end up being out of town at that time. I will, okay, for sure. Anything else that anybody thinks that we're missing or should be added? Right?
I want to put my name in on the SUPAC DPAC for the 25th.
Thank you.
There's some chairs over here.
Come on in, by all means, welcome. Moving on then to item number 8, our senior staff report. We will start with our superintendent's report.
Thanks, Alan. So the focus for the report this evening is around our the pilot on the recruitment and retention initiative. And I wanted to give trustees a bit of an update. So most of you have already heard what's going on up until now. And we have a person hired as a recruitment specialist, but wanted to give you some other updates on this as well. As you know, we all spread out across the country. They're mostly in January. Teams here, as well as administrators and staff. And I personally went to the one in Edmonton and in Calgary. And I had the fortune of being in Edmonton, being in between New Zealand and Australia on my left, and central Okanagan and Kelowna on my right. And it was very, very hard to compete. So I actually took my iPad and went and greeted the students as they came into the hall.
Good move.
My opening line was, we have positions for September. Would you like to join us? And so our district was well ahead of the curve in the sense of having positions posted already, continuing positions, and so that helped. But otherwise, I can tell you, there were a lot of districts, and the students, I think it felt like they had to run the gauntlet in order to go through those passageways, because a lot of interest. I learned quite a bit. I wanted to share with you just the concept of what it means when everybody is looking for teachers and staff, but especially when some of the larger districts are involved. So in Calgary, I was across from the district of Surrey. Surrey is the biggest district in BC. And the recent contract where they added on 10 minutes of prep time for elementary teachers. So they went from 110 to 120 minutes per week, just a difference of 10 minutes, meant that Surrey had to hire 50 more teachers, 50. The city of Calgary, which we sometimes try and compete for some of those students in Alberta, they have a TTOC list, so a substitute teacher list of about 1,500, and they were down to around 700. So they were looking for 800 TTOCs from which they hire their teachers. So that's the context in which our district was trying to find people. And we did share with you, as well as with the ministry, what that means for us. And so we took a snapshot as of September 30th of across the north. So as you know, that's the 14 northern districts. And at that time, this is at the end of September, you can see how we still had a number of openings, as well as some teachers on letters of permission. And we're about 50-50 in terms of non-certified TTOCs or certified TTOCs. So some really strong data to back that up. We've talked about the impact that can have on the schools and on students, whether it's directly on learning, on equity, on leadership, on professional development, and just on the whole operation of the district. It's affected negatively when everybody's trying to scramble and when we're short of people. So, to their credit, we've been working with the ministry since last spring around this pilot, which is focusing specifically this year and heading into as far as Christmas, I believe the funding runs out, working directly with Coast Mountains and the community of Hazelton, the district of Stikine, the community of Fort St. James within the Chaco Lakes, and the district of Niska. And those were areas and populations that were in the most dire need, had high numbers of students in vulnerable populations. And what's happening is that a recruitment specialist has been hired. Her name is Jessa Chupik. And she's actually going to be based out of Haida Gwaii. And she's working with those 4 districts and communities to help them with their postings, as far as the marketing, creating videos, photos, telling the story of those areas, and She'll help them with the language there where there's going to be some incentives. So they're also piloting some incentives available to those 4 areas in terms of recruiting. So we're going to see how that goes and what impact it has. What we've tried to be clear on is that the North needs differentiated support. And because the shortage has now become a provincial issue, what we're making sure we request is that the solutions are not the same across the province. It can't be. So we need to have different and possibly more robust interventions for the northern districts. However, we're pretty excited about what we've learned just in the last 6 months and working with post-secondary institutions, especially SFU and UNBC, around offering more hybrid or online teacher education programs. And as I told you the last time, SFU is now offering this professional linking program. So if you have some credits, you can start outside of your working hours. UNBC, I believe, is submitting a request to have an online program, which should be available not this September, but the following September. And there are quite a few people out there interested, which I'll talk about in a moment. The pilot group itself, it involves 6 northern superintendents. I'm sort of chairing that committee. It involves ministry staff, team on workforce, as well as BCPC and Make a Future. And we're all basically collaborating together to see if we can make a difference. So in our next steps, they also want to be able to evaluate the impact of this pilot and see if they can get more staff for the fall. And of course, this success can be messy. There's no clear path necessarily. Tonight, I wanted to share with you the results of a very recent survey that was sent out across the North to all of the teachers on letters of permission, as well as all of the substitute teachers that are non-certified. This just shows that our district, about close to 20%, so we had the most respondents. And we found out that over 120 of the 186 who responded either already had a degree or were close to completing one. And what that means is we can share this information with post-secondary. They can then design some of these specific programs to help these people get into a teacher education program on an individual specific path. They call it micro-credentials and laddering. And so this is helpful information to them. This slide here, it's small, but you can view it on your computer, gives you a sense of the areas of education that those 120 odd people already have under their belt. This is also exciting. Of all the people surveyed, if you look at sort of level 3, 4, and 5, the vast majority are interested in becoming teachers. And then this slide simply shows that if a program is available, really the only way they can do this is if there's an online or hybrid program where they don't have to go and spend the entire summer or months in the big city down south. And so we're pretty optimistic about the post-secondary having heard that. And then finally, as part of the survey, we asked them, what is it that you need help with? So in your current role as on a letter of permission or as a substitute teacher, where do you think you need some help? And so this is giving us some guidance as far as any kind of professional development or training or mentorship that we can help design for them. So that's that report on there. And then finally this evening, as usual on Take 3, we have some exciting celebrations around the district. I hear from Robert Ogilvie there was a visit to Camp Cameron. And below that, Duncan Cran participated in 2 weeks of Arctic Winter Games. See how they did there. And finally, Taylor Elementary had a reading challenge and were able to complete 79,704 minutes of reading, and they've detailed that in this post here. And that's my report. And then other items on the report. So item number 2, I'd ask 2, 3, and 4 to be broken out. Number 2 is out of district field trips for approval. Some had to be approved prior to the board meeting tonight. Same thing for community coaches, as well as for number 4, posts of responsibility. Thank you.
Could I please have a mover and a seconder for Stephen's report? moved by David, seconded by Madeline, and we will pull those other items out for motion at the end. Going through Stephen's report now. Any questions related to the Human Resources Summary Report for teachers?
There's something out there.
Pardon?
I think it's fantastic they're working so hard on recruitment. It's difficult to hold on people up here, there's no question about that. And I think it's really important to bring more people up and train our own.
Side of the box thinking.
Mhm.
Thank you.
I think the message about the need for a more responsive way of training teachers, we've been talking about for 10 years, but it was kind of like, oh, we've heard it this time. So,
Well, and to be clear, the message that certainly that we give and that you gave at NIB was that there's been years of letters on Standing Finance Committee, there's been letters specifically written by the board to the ministry, and this is them following up on that.
welcome, Nicole. Okay.
So on that also, I really appreciate that you've asked the staff where we can give them some Pro-D to help them out, because I know sometimes it's difficult when they aren't certified, and yet any way we can help them to get what they need is a great asset to our students.
And when the post-secondary are looking at this, they're not even just looking at the degrees they have or their coursework, they're also looking at this, the help that they need, because they're also going to look at offering coursework in Pro-D as well, whether or not you're interested in going in to become a teacher. So that's promising too.
And I think we heard when Charmaine did her presentation to us, how they really have to think about what the right supports are for even teachers coming from out of province, because we know that we hire far more out of province where people have been trained on a different style of curriculum. So this would be probably very helpful information for learning services as well.
Whose responsibilities are to hire teachers?
I'm sorry,
Oh, sorry.
we take all of our questions
Oh, sorry,
from the
I'm
public.
sorry.
No, that's okay. You know what?
Okay.
This is a total learning experience
Okay.
for us tonight too. So just, we'll all learn together.
Okay, whose responsibility is it to hire teachers? Because at one time,
Yeah.
it was that the principals could hire teachers, and they hired them out of Alberta, and they hired them from all over the place.
Tell you what,
Responsibility is-
hang on to your question
Write
and
your
we'll give you a
question down.
chance at the end.
It's at the end of the meeting.
It's at the end of the meeting.
Sorry, okay.
This discussion time is just for the illustrious. I'm just teasing. I do have a wry sense of humor sometimes. So, okay, moving on then, we'll take a look at our out-of-district field trips. I would like to thank staff for the additional detail on there, and I would like a motion that the Board of Education adopt the out-of-district field trips as presented, including a recent addition for North Peace related to the rugby team's travel. Looking for a motion. Moved by Ida, seconded by Thomas. Further discussion related to out-of-district field trips? Calling the question then, all in favor? Thank you. Moving on to community coaches, quite an exciting list of people choosing to get involved with our students. Could I have a mover and seconder related to that? Moved by Ida, seconded by Madeline. Any questions related to community coaches? I want to know how they're going to be doing rugby on March 31st. Calling the question then, all in favor? Posts of responsibility. We have a change up there and an additional one as well. So I'm looking for a motion that Board of Education adopt the post of responsibilities as presented, including the addition of Angela Fuller for grade 7 and social emotional learning at Burt Bowes. by Thomas, seconded by David. Any further discussion? All in favor then, please? Moving on to the Secretary Treasurer's report.
Helen, can we go back, because we didn't talk about other things in Stephen's report?
Okay.
And I have a couple things to say
Okay,
about,
sorry.
about the take three.
Okay, back to the take three.
I was in Duncan Cran at their PAC meeting, and they were talking about how they needed to have something that could get the kids excited before March break and stuff. And their day for their winter activity day came out of that, and I thought that was really cool, and that was really good that they had done that. And also, I wanted to also comment on the reading in Taylor, because the librarian down there does such a good job, and at one time they had such poor participation in reading, and it has just grown so much. And the race, I went in every day, and the race was so close between those kids. And the grade 2 class was trying so hard to match the grade 6 class. It was incredible to see those little kids and how excited it was that, you know, they were reading these books, and they were not going to just read their home reading. They were actually reading chapter books so they could get the time in. And I just think, you know, when you go into a school and you see that kind of engagement, it's just incredible for what our staff does. I just wanted to share that exciting about the reading challenges, and I know most schools have it. I know Bell has it going on right now too. So
The other thing, if you get a chance, is take a look at the little video clip of all the little cowboys that were inviting you to the celebration. It was just a hoot.
Yeah, that's
and Nancy posted it.
Yeah, that's for their book fair this week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it just all leads up to it, but yeah. But these take threes that you put in here are just really shows what it's about, like what happens in our schools. And I think sometimes it just gets passed over, and a lot of work goes into it.
I'm excited that's another follow-up to what I heard in Vancouver. Right. Now, Angela, it's your turn.
Thank you. This evening, I am presenting the financial update to February 28th. We have a presentation by Mr. Jeff Mayer around Project Heavy Duty, HR support staff summary update, and then Standing Finance Committee for the Budget 2024 consultation that I will speak to shortly, and Helen will help me out there. So that is my report for this evening.
So, I need a mover and seconder on that report, and then we will discuss all those wonderful details with Angela. Moved by Thomas, seconded by Madeline. Going through our Secretary or Treasurer's report item by item, we'll look at the financial update.
Yeah, so quite a quick turnaround from the last meeting. I didn't get quite my 4 weeks that I usually get. So this financial update represents the amended budget that we passed in February. We can still see that we're using quite a bit from surplus because that's the first wage retro pays went through, and we haven't received the funding from the ministry yet. So that is coming out of there. And then we can see some alignment with our the budget line items for salaries are where they are. Supplies still a bit low for this time of year, but everyone likes to save their money till the end of the year and then make some surprise spends that make me happy in my heart at the end of the year. So, and then we still have a few more capital purchases to get through. So all in all, everything seems to be falling where it may. Once the funding comes through for the support staff, then we'll be back on track. So, not that we're off track, we will be on track.
That was March, we expect that.
They like to hold their cards tight. I'm not too sure. I heard March, but we'll see. So that is the financial report.
Any question related to the?
Nothing's causing you any concern.
I'm happy.
Madeline?
Do you want to educate me again, what's all under miscellaneous revenue?
Good question.
I don't need it down to every single, but just the broad stroke.
Miscellaneous revenue is when we receive funds, like everything goes in there. It's everything that is like if there's an accident and the proceeds from the vehicle disposal would go in there. It's just kind of a catch-all for where
Donations?
donations would go in there.
Okay. I know. I always have to explain it.
Yes. Hold it in our head from time to time.
And you've asked me before, and it just falls out every time, so.
Any other questions related to the budget? We'll move on to Superstar.
Sir Jeff Mayer is here to present on Project Heavy Duty.
Hey, how's it going today? I got a gift for you.
You want to share, Sheldon?
Oh,
I'll slide you on.
no, I'm okay. I'll be up and around. I'm used to walking around, so it's all good. If I sit too long, I turn into a turnip. So, here you are.
Thank you.
You betcha. Everybody gets their hats. So, Richard told me to buy about 150 this year. I went for 180. So, anyways, the other two trustees that can't make it, we're okay right here?
You betcha, thank you.
Okay, so forgive me, I promised Angela I'd go relatively fast, but I got a couple surprises, really positive ones.
Take your time.
You don't want to say that to me, Hel.
I know, but I also have a big hook.
If I was closer, I'd have kicked you under the table.
I know.
So, started off in September, we found out Project Heavy Duty was a go, working with Stephen and Angela. We went to the Petroleum Association dinner to present and let them know that we're trying to get this going again. I'm equating Project Heavy Duty to a truck that's stuck in the muskeg with a dead battery. First of all, we got to re-energize it, and then we got to, break the suction and get it moving. So it is there. I went around actually in December, and Angela and I, we compiled a list of different donors from the past, from the information that we had. So we again invested a little and got these really nice toques. And I went and you'd be amazed at how many people let you in, like if you have a little gift, meeting like owners of companies and, hey, I'm Jeff from Project Heavy Duty and got a little gift for you to say thanks and come on in, right? Like, it was really cool. And then a couple things. So got that. Really great news. We have a site. So we were ready to go and hopefully a potential long-term site. So we're going to be heading out to Parkwood Estates. That's just across from Montmurray there. Chris Wuthrich, Brandy Conway, awesome. I went out there in early October, I believe, to talk to them. And then we confirmed here just in February, my lead operator, Ty Goodbun and Donnie Goodbun, went for a walk around and there's some projects to be done. So that's the neat thing about Project Heavy Duty is that the kids do real work. They're not just pushing dirt. Now we got to figure out a logging. If we're going to do it, I'd like to do it if we can. B, where can we go remote like we did one year, or can we get permission on the site maybe to get a logging truck full of logs? See if Canfor will donate one, and then get the wood processors out there, maybe cutting up rounds for firewood or something, which we could either then sell to put back into the program or do something like that. So playing with all those ideas. So that's the big one. The site's huge. What else do I got? So right now, May 29th to June 2nd is the target date. And so I was on the Moose this morning. I'm going to the Moose tomorrow morning. I was on Bounce on Thursday. And if you want to see my interview with Martin, it is available on Facebook, on the Bounce Facebook page. So you can just head on over there and take a look and whatnot. So yeah, we're trying to really pump it up and get people going. And the big thing that we're doing is I've already chosen the applicants for Project Heavy Duty. I had the application process, and anyways, I do have a sample application if anybody wanted to take a look at it. I am open to feedback. I actually spent a lot of time with colleagues trying to get a balanced and fair like application for kids. So that's something I worked really hard on. The application breakdown, if you want, I've got 12 participants from Fort St. John, 7 male, 5 female. Okay, 5 have Indigenous backgrounds. 5 are dual credit heavy duty mechanic students. There's 4 grade 11 students heading into their level 1 next year. And there's 1 young man who's in grade 12 who just finished his level 1 who's coming with us as well. So Hudson Hope, we have 3 applicants, 1 male, 2 females. The neat thing about Hudson Hope is that we have a brother and sister team. So I thought long and hard about it, and I thought, why should the family pay for gas for 2 years? They're both very valid applicants. So I wouldn't have to press with you, but we missed the grade 12s, and that would be going out, but I managed to talk to the grade 11s, made an offer for them to take a run at it. Didn't really have a lot of interest from them this year, maybe next year. So that's why we went with that. Again, we're trying to get it going again. That's the whole kicker. And the coming up mid-April, mid-April, marketing on the radio, and I'm taking 2 kids. I've got they're okay with it. Angela gave me some excellent advice when it came to collecting donations and sponsorship, and she said as much as you can involve the kids, the better off you are. And I really thought hard about that and said absolutely. So I've got 2 students, a male and a female, coming on the radio with me. They've agreed to do it, and their parents have okayed everything, and we can stream live the whole kit and caboodle. So I think that's going to be awesome. And I got kind of a little funky reveal here today. Stephen didn't want to know until now. So
Stephen, no.
he said he wanted a surprise. So. You don't know me that well. Maybe you shouldn't. And the kids all have their hats as well. They get a special one that says Restart 2023. So the kids all have them, and I said, when you're wearing these, you're an ambassador for the program. So whatever you do, you're not allowed to be a jerk. So that's the thing. But we have the Oilmans coming up in April. And so for that, I talked with Angela and Stephen. I thought, a nice way of kind of giving a subtle hint and a reminder. They do draws at the beginning, I believe, and for different items. And I thought, let's donate some items from Project Heavy Duty. So I got creative, as I sometimes do, and I came up with this. So, excuse me.
This could be interesting.
Wow. All right. So, okay. Oh, yeah. Oh, I want one.
You can leave those there.
Yeah.
I can't miss this meeting is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, that's right, eh? This is what's known as a cooler chair. And it's got our logo right here. Okay, so a nice big fluffy chair. We have a wonderful cooler. Okay. And with the logo and everything. And then one will go with this, okay, and the cooler and the chair. Okay, and the others will be individual. And the neat thing about these is these were constructed by participants in Project Heavy Duty. So that was really neat. And had a really great design for it. And this is, I'm trying not to scratch the table with steel. This is what I'm calling here the Project Heavy Duty Campfire Kit. So there you go. That's what we're going to donate to the Patrolman Association. So and if anybody wants to take a look, I've got the you betcha application there. And then Stephen, for when you take this to the Patrolman Association, I have the letters of information and I have business cards. So I'll leave it right in there for you, and you can do that. So I will take this back and drop it off to you. So
Thank you.
there you go. That's where it is for now. So like I said,
There'll be questions.
sorry.
Questions of Jen?
Yes.
So you have the applicants, did you have more, did you actually have to reject some, or
Yes.
did, yeah?
Yes, I did. So it's not always an easy choice. There's a lot of things in balance. And there is one young man that I have as an alternate, and he will be going through the same things as the other students. Actually, some I should mention. The students will be doing the common safety orientation, which is now required out in the oil field, and we already have a sponsor for that. And something interesting came up today, positive, in regards to that as well. So anyways, and I just did mine today too, actually. It's not required on site, but it's just a nice thing for the kids to have. So yes, but our alternate will go through all of those steps as well. But then he is guaranteed a spot next year because he's a grade 11. So yeah, you betcha. Yes, Ida.
So Jeff, do you know what actual year this is for Project Heavy Duty?
I'm honestly, I didn't play, like, I wasn't involved at the onset, I was still teaching. But I believe it is our 18th or 19th, I'm thinking 19th event by my math, but I'm an English teacher by trade. so-
Yeah, no, it's probably, I have a jacket that's the 50th year
Yes.
that Don gave us, and I've had it for a few years.
Yeah.
I just thought maybe you'd know. I'll look it up.
It's 18 to 19, I believe, because I know that, you know, we're kind of getting excited about the 20th coming up, so that would be, yeah, a really big one, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
because it was, it's an excellent
Oh,
program.
absolutely, I fell in love with it.
Yeah.
When I went out there in 2011, that was it. And, it was well known amongst the people and the operators and stuff that work
I'll
out
have to go home and look up mine, because I'll be able to figure it out.
there. Drop me an email, will you? I believe it started in 2002, 2000, actually, I believe it was 2003, honestly speaking. And then we got shut down for, was it 2-3 events in COVID? So that's kind of where the math gets a little,
Yeah.
yeah.
I just, yeah, because it took us a couple years to approve it first.
Oh, I
And
bet.
we went to the Jackal Lakes is where we first saw it.
Yes, and they're on year 30, I believe, yeah. Kamloops has one now too called Heavy Metal Rocks. A little bit different than ours. Theirs is 2-day, ours is 5. So that's kind of neat. And if you think about the difference in the sizes of the district proportionately,
Oh, yeah.
you know, we're still, we're about as big as they are, yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'll go home and I'll look it up.
Yeah, please do. Anybody?
First off, thank you
Oh.
for helping those kids. I think that's absolutely fantastic. I know we've chatted about the program
Yeah.
several times, and it gets me excited every time I start thinking about it, because kids always learn a little bit differently
Yeah.
than anybody else sitting in that classroom. So I think it's fantastic that they get out there, work on some machinery, get stuff done, build the poker sticks, build the frames of a house. I think that just excites me. Real life skills, I think that's what we're talking about here, is real life skills. The resume goes back to that. I think that's fantastic, because that's when I look at it, that's what it reminds me of, is a resume. Building your references, building who you are, presenting yourself in a responsible way. That's building life skills. I think it's fantastic. Just a quick question. Everything that you guys raise stays in this program, right? To make it bigger, make it better?
Yes. Yeah, 100%.
Fantastic.
You betcha. So, awesome.
And I will say from firsthand experience with some of the project and naming position, where I know people looking at resumes, having the fact that you were a participant in Project Heavy Duty on your resume has some credibility to it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, the other thing, like another angle I'm taking with this is that I've got some pretty awesome students. Like one of the young men that was building this, he was doing this on his own time. He had to spare his flex block, and he came down and he, you know, worked on these, you know, for us. So that was really great. We got some really, really nice kids. And what angle I'm taking with the sponsors is you want to meet these people. You really want to meet these young people. They're pretty outstanding. And so that's kind of I think a neat way to go. Like, so I said on the radio yesterday, the other day, to Martin, I said, sponsors want to be a part of this. They want to meet, especially in a labor shortage, they want to meet these people that are up and comers. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Thank you, and we'll put the week down in our calendar, and don't forget to invite us out to have a look.
Well, I'm going to be too busy, so you just got to come. Draw me an email. I'll be hotspotting my
Put it
phone,
on
no
the
problem.
calendar.
We'll put it up.
I'm going to forget. I got too many other things I got to do.
Thank you, Jeff.
You bet.
Thank you for your honesty and energy.
It's been very fascinating. So it's a big learning curve for me. So it's been great. It's been a lot of fun too. So I look forward to.
It's been a joy working with Angela, is I think what he was trying to say.
She's been very, very helpful and excellent.
Good,
Working
well
partner.
done. Good save.
Good working partner for sure. So she's teaching me lots.
All right, thanks, Jeff.
Thanks,
You
Jeff.
betcha. So forgive me. I'm just going to fumble around with all this stuff.
No worries.
All right, any questions of Angela related to her human resources support staff summary?
Thank you, sir.
I was going to say, we're getting the names of the retiring teachers. Can we get the names of the retiring support staff too? Just helps us know when we're out and about. Right. Standing Finance Committee, Budget 2024 consultation.
This is over to you, isn't it? Do you want me to start?
Isn't that it? we're looking for consensus from the trustees about the importance of the presentation to the committee. There are a number of options available to us. Is the option of just sending a written. There's an option of doing an oral presentation, which we have done. Or as we've discovered, there's the option of not saying anything at all. But that has not typically been the history of this board with respect to financial standing committee presentation. And we do have to make a commitment about doing a presentation prior to our next board meeting. So we're asking for direction from you regarding this presentation. Ellen.
I'd like to say thank you for, I know you have done the last few in the past, and I believe it has a lot of impact when we talk for advocacy and presenting the district. So I'm in full favor of doing a presentation, and it's easy for me to say. I will volunteer to help.
Oh, we'll all help. We'll be here.
But I do believe the oral has more impact than the written.
Yeah, I think that it's great and we should do it because, I mean, I've done it in the past as well. And it isn't just a service because they have come back and asked us different questions and stuff. So they do listen. So I think that it's really important that we do it. We go and present. And I'm like that, and I'll do whatever I can to help you guys.
So we will register to do a oral presentation, and we will come back to you because I think they're in May this year. So we will come back in April and look for ideas for the body of what needs to go into that report, and also look at past ones to see what we want to hit again, and maybe if there's some new items that we want to emphasize.
So this is the opportunity for government to government. So the trustees will be presenting to the provincial government. So
And I believe one of the communities that's listed is Dawson Creek, but they never came to Dawson Creek last year, and then we ended up doing it on Zoom, so we'll see if they actually come to Dawson Creek. That's the closest community for presentation. Right, that is your report. And we had a mover and a seconder. Can I call the question? All in favor of accepting Angela's report?
thank you.
On. There was no regular committee of the whole meeting in March. We have no meeting. We're looking at policy, our policy committee, and we're not looking at a meeting with that until April the 11th. So we will get an agenda out and be looking at that. So looking at other reports. In your agenda package, we attached the budget overview from the BCSTA. Obviously, there are some areas that people were excited to see in the report, but there are some areas that there are some concerns about. One of the things is there was a short call with the BCSTA with chairs and supers right after the budget was presented. One of the things that we do have coming out of that that's new to us will be a food program and support for food within schools. And the details of how districts are going to do that and what they're going to do all remains to be worked out. Do you have anything to add on that point?
We may find out the amount on March 15th, but that's all we know right now.
Provincial Council update. Nicole added the synopsis from Provincial Council into your agenda package. All of the reports that were made there are linked within the report. If you want to go into further depth, there about those. You okay, Nicole? Thanks. BCSTA AGM registration, Leah has sent that information out to you. If you can get back to her regarding your plans. Her plan was to tentatively book us all and then confirm as we go along. At AGM, the 5 motions that were produced by the NIB will come forward, as well as our motion related to assessment wait times. Those are all approved to go forward at AGM.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Because I know the sooner we book, the better. Do we leave one person behind in case the business part is not finished Saturday, or do we?
Ida?
We usually, whoever's the provincial council usually stays behind because they have a meeting at the end of it.
Okay.
So normally,
That would be Nicole or
so it would be
Thomas.
Nicole, because normally they have a meeting right after the AGM, so they're usually there.
Well, that's why it's clear that.
Not everybody's staying for the Sunday.
I'm actually the
Yeah.
BCEC alternative.
BCPC, sorry.
Bill
Bill.
is the BC.
Thank you. My mind's a little scrambled
I think
tonight.
Nicole's
Thank
trying to
you.
say something.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I am staying till the Sunday, so.
Okay, so we're covered. That's good. Okay. Thank you. And we did, because the Financial Standing Committee was going to be on the agenda, we attached the BCST advocacy suggestions and guidelines for advocacy, and motions to AGM are certainly part of that, as is the Financial Standing Committee presentation. BCPC, Vice Chair Lehman.
Actually, if you look under your attachments, it's under the BCSA Provincial Council meeting. The reason why that's attached under my report is because Bruce Anderson had presented that at the council, and he is the CEO of BCPC. So it's more informational. It's the slides that we've seen at the AGM in January. It talks about the Northern Remote and Remote Recruitment Project, and that Chesapeake is hired. It also talks about the exempt compensation working group. And we will have to get back to you on that, because there's 2 delegates from the NIB that could be part of that working group, but we have not figured out yet how they decide.
Yeah, and we're not totally sure about the clarity
On who or how, but if you have any interest, please read that attachment, because there's information on what that working group will do and what it's the process.
All right. I would like to thank those of you that were able to be here to be part of the advance on Monday. And at that advance, we had a data walk where we looked at our district's results in preparation of the framework for enhancing student learning. We also had a conversation about our strategic plan and strategic plan renewal. And so we weren't a full board there. We are looking for a motion to come forward tonight that we move forward with forming a planning committee related to the development or update of the strategic plan. So I need a mover and a seconder for that. Moved by Ida, seconded by Thomas. Discussion related to that. Ida?
And we did say that it would be 2 trustees, superintendent, and
Yep.
secretary treasurer, so
Yeah.
just so that if they weren't present,
We're looking at.
that's what we're looking at for.
With that committee bringing back to the whole board a plan for moving forward and a timeline and exactly the depth we're choosing to go into. So I have a mover and Nicole,
Yeah, just sorry, I just wanted to be clear. So the planning committee is just going to kind of plan how we're going to do the strategic plan and then come back to us and we all do it?
What we'll be doing is an initial plan that looks at what our options are and some concept of timelines, and then we'll bring that back to the board for approval, and then we'll move forward based on what comes out of that.
Okay.
Is that cleared up? Hopefully. Okay. And calling the question related to strategic plan. All in favor of moving forward with a committee, and that committee will get back to us.
Chair, if we pause. Leah, did you capture that motion okay? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. She didn't wave at me, and I looked so good. All right, we're looking now at item number 11 on our agenda, which is the proposed 3-year calendar. And it was brought forward at an earlier meeting, and it has been out to the public. And we would like to thank the public for the feedback that they have provided. The feedback was included in your agenda packages, and based on that feedback, you'll note that we've looked at moving the November 11th day in lieu related to Remembrance Day to the Monday, rather than the Friday that we had it on in the original calendar. A lot of the other feedback that was in your package from the public was related to moving either Christmas break or spring break to a different time frame. And there are contractual factors that do not allow us the flexibility to do that. And so, Stephen, you might want to expand on that.
Just say they're in the collective agreement with our teacher bargaining unit around the days and the dates that Christmas holidays can start, that spring break can start specifically, as well as when the last day of school is, being the last Friday in June. So those are contractual elements that we can't actually change.
Was there an explanation as to why they wanted it moved? Was it more so that Southern BC that has different timings, we match up with them, or?
If the information that was in that package, a lot of people, weather-wise, would rather have spring break coinciding with breakup, and they talk about the fact that winter in the north is different than in the south. So there was a lot of that, and there was concern expressed in there that actually the first day of our Christmas break is December the 25th, and that by having it there, you were going to have people, if they were traveling for Christmas, that were going to have to take days off out of school. Madeline?
So I did notice that, yes, obviously, and I'd like to throw that out there too, the public call for consultation was out there, and the one date was changed, that was possible to change. How because I read through the emails, how did they get a response back from Jared or somebody from the staff when?
That is the response essentially here.
It's here, so if I had written an email, unless I'm here or I'm reading the minutes, I wouldn't have gotten a response.
I'm not actually sure. I can check with Jared and get back to you on that.
Just, I mean, if I get approached, whatever, then I know the, okay.
For sure.
But it's, yeah, I mean, and even just for them to understand that a lot of it is contractual limitations.
Yeah.
It's not.
Your suggestions make sense, but we don't have the flexibility
exactly.
to respond to them.
Exactly.
Helen?
Yeah.
Yeah, would it be a lot of work to respond to those emails? Because, yeah, like Madeline says, it's nice that people gave us our feedback, but you know how it will be interpreted in the public as well. I asked for spring break to be 1 week or later in April, and I guess, like, because nobody's going to read these minutes, right? So if this is the only way they find out that their feedback wasn't, I just think we should reply to those emails and just say contractually, we cannot be flexible on spring break or Christmas break. Just to give them, so, you know, we did hear you, thank you, but we can't.
And we can also look for some follow-up communication on our website as well.
And so I'll follow up as well, Helen, and if it's not already being responded to, there will be a response.
Thomas?
Just so everybody in the room knows, what is the turnaround time on the next negotiations for these contracts, which are locking in these days?
Well, we just renewed the contract, as you know, and so that's 3 years, but about the same timeline as this calendar actually. Yeah.
Right, could I please have someone make the motion that the board adopt the proposed 2023, 2024, 2024, 2025, 2025, 2026 3-year calendar as presented? Moved by David, seconded by Ida. Any further discussion? Yes, I let discussion before calling the question. Okay, calling the question then. All in favor?
Thank you.
Moving on, some exciting news. Our capital plan bylaw number 2023-24 CPSD 60-01. The attachments for that are in your agenda package. And I'm looking for a motion that in accordance with section 68(4) of the School Act, all 3 readings of the capital bylaw number 2023-24 CPS SD 60-01 be given at this meeting. Moved by Thomas, seconded by Madeline. Calling the question, all in favor? Right. I'm going to move on with the first reading of the capital bylaw number 2023-24 CPS D 60-01. Whereas in accordance with section 142 of the School Act, the Board of Education of School District number 60, Peace River North, hereinafter called the board, has submitted a capital plan to the Minister of Education, hereinafter called the Minister, and the Minister has approved the capital plan or has approved a capital plan with modifications. Now, therefore, in accordance with section 143 of the School Act, the board has prepared this capital bylaw and agrees to do the following. Authorize the Secretary Treasurer to execute a capital funding agreement or agreements related to the capital project or projects contemplated by the capital plan or the capital plan with modifications. Upon ministerial approval to proceed, commence the capital projects and proceed diligently and use its best efforts to complete each capital project substantially as directed by the minister. Observe and comply with any order, regulation, or policy of the ministry as may be applicable to the board or the capital projects, and maintain a proper books of account and other information and documents with respect to the affairs of the capital project or projects as may be prescribed by the minister. Now, therefore, the board enacts as follows. The capital bylaw of the board for 2023-24 capital plan as approved by the minister to include the supported capital project or project specified in the letter addressed to the Secretary Treasurer and Superintendent dated March the 9th, 2023 is hereby adopted. This capital bylaw may be cited as School District number 60 Peace River North capital bylaw number 2023-24 CPSD 60-01. Read this first time the 13th day of March 2023. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Ida, seconded by David. Now we can discuss what the ministry has approved, and I'll turn that part over to Angela.
Yeah, so we have asked for an HVAC upgrade to Hudson Hope School. That will be done in 2 parts. The total cost of it will be 1.8 million, and we've received 800,000 for 2023-24. Then we are doing 2 projects that are similar at Central and Robert Ogilvie. We're looking to upgrade the electrical control system for the HVAC system. So, and those are both coming in at $285,010. And then we are receiving two new buses as replacements. One 76 seat one and one 70 to 75 capacity. So those are the projects that have been.
Any other questions for Angela? All right. Calling the question then on the first reading. All in favor? Now, could I please get a motion that the second and third readings of this bylaw and all bylaws, for the fact that we have lots of public here tonight, must go through 3 readings? And we need a motion to approve that you don't have to listen to the whole thing 3 times. You can listen to the next 2 readings in short form. Moved by David, seconded by Thomas. Calling the question. Carried. All right. Second reading of the capital bylaw number 2023-24 CPSD 60-01, the capital plan for 23-24 in the short form. Whereas in accordance with section 142 of the School Act, the Board of Education of School District number 60, Peace River North, Indianapolis Falls Board, has submitted a capital plan to the Minister of Education, and the Minister has approved the capital plan or has approved a capital plan with modifications. The board will enact that plan as was put out in the letter from the minister. So the board enacts as follows: the capital bylaw of the board for the 2023-24 capital plan as approved by the minister to include the supported capital projects specified in the letter addressed to the Secretary, Treasurer, and Superintendent dated March the 9th. And the bylaw will be cited as bylaw number 2023-24 CPSD 60-. That would be the second reading. Could I have a reading and seconded? Moved by Madeline, seconded by Thomas. Question, all in favor? Moving on to the third reading of the capital bylaw number 23-24 CPSD 60-01, whereas in accordance with section 142 of the School Act, the Board of Education of School District number 60 has submitted a capital plan to the Minister of Education, and the Minister has approved the capital plan or has approved the capital plan with modifications. In accordance with section 143 of the School Act, the board's prepared the capital bylaw and agrees to all of the things that we need to agree to. The board enacts as follows: the capital bylaw of the board for 2023-2024 capital plan as approved by the minister to include the supported capital projects specified in the letter addressed to the Secretary, Treasurer, and Superintendent dated March 9, 2023 is hereby adopted, and the bylaw will be cited by us, School District 60, as capital bylaw number 23-24 CPSD 60-01. Read a third time and passed on the 13th day of March 2023. So, moved by Ida, seconded by David. Calling the question related to that third reading, all in favor? Moving on then to correspondence. We didn't have any. Unfinished business. Item number 14, board chair update from the partner liaison meeting. I did in your package give you a report on the partner liaison meeting. Are there any questions related to that report? Some of the things in the board chair trips and Robert's Rules 101, you'll see me attempting tonight. And we did do some modifications to our agenda in keeping with the things that we heard. Some questions related to that?
No questions, but thanks for attending and giving a summary.
All right, Moving on to new business and SD 60 overdose response questions. Trustee Whitten raised some questions related to student safety, the concept of a proposed safe injection site, and we need to provide staff with some direction as to the kind of information we would like as trustees. So this is an opportunity to put forward questions. District staff will let us know what questions are within their purview to answer. And based on what comes forward from us, and we obviously have a very interested public tonight, we will chart a course of action.
I guess I will head it off. So my first couple of questions were to Stephen and the administration. Current drug prevention policies in schools, as well as education on drug overdose crisis, prevention, all of that kind of stuff. I know we've had some great programs in the past, like the party program, all of that kind of stuff, but those have gone to the wayside due to other organizations going under. I am worried about our children. So that is my biggest concern, is how are we educating them with regards to this? There's a lot of aspects that we are educating them in. That's one thing. State of communications between the school district and Northern Health specifically, how is that going? I understand these questions will take a couple of weeks to come back. This is not these questions need to be answered today. This is more of a discovery opportunity. As you mentioned earlier, Helen, so this is more for us as a board. We are government to government. So I feel, and perhaps I'm completely wrong in that, but there was a breakdown in communication somewhere. I would put it to the board that perhaps we should look at drafting a letter talking about communications on proposed sites and our concerns with where they are located, not necessarily even where they're located, that they should consider the feedback from this governing body when choosing a site that could potentially increase risk for our children. Because that's what we're here about. We're here for our children. I appreciate that Northern Health has a mandate. They have rules they need to follow, but we're here for the kids and we need to make sure that they're protected first and foremost.
Yes, thanks for the questions, and happy to try and dive into a bit more detail on the first couple of questions there around the education and the preventative stuff going on, as well as some of the safety issues. So happy to get back to you on that. And there's a number of things I know we'll be able to report on. And then, of course, it's your third point or question is more for yourself. So, but happy to get back to you on that. And if there are any other questions from other trustees related to those questions, happy to take them.
I would be interested in knowing a little bit more about the schools that are closest to the site and what kind of things that they're currently experiencing, and have an idea of how big a problem or perceived problem we're looking at trying to address.
Okay.
Madeline?
And that's, I think you kind of hinted that in your question, if I heard it right. The process for choosing a site. I'm sure Stephen is aware of what this process entails. And and it's not obviously it's the school board that makes those regulations, but even if you could outline that and
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't tell you what I don't know as far as, I'm not privy to those processes. What would normally happen, for example, in a bylaw proposal or a change of zone for the city that could affect there are laws, for example, that they have to report to the school district, there's going to be a change. Not in this case. Then they would inform the secretary treasurer, who would then bring it to the board, and the board would sort of make a decision and look at that. So I think the question around the letter, and it seems to make sense around asking for clarification as to what the process is, how these decisions are made, and requesting, if that's what you're looking for in terms of the governance part, input from the board, that would be a letter that you could draft, and that would be up to you. So I might suggest, Helen, if it's okay, then in a similar vein, putting those key questions forward to them.
I'm quite happy to draft a letter, but I'm looking for
Yes, please.
questions from you that you would like answered in a letter. Ida?
Yeah, I think that we're going the right way that I'm hearing here, because like Stephen has said, in the past, if there's been bylaws changes around our schools, we've been notified and stuff. So I'd like to know the process of how this, and if you can draft a letter asking that, that's great. From the board.
Other questions?
I don't know if this is within our area, but I'd be curious if there was other examples of other schools that went through a similar process, and if there was an increase in paraphernalia and all that kind of stuff around schools, or if it decreased it, whichever side it was. I'd be interested in seeing that as well. I don't know if the ministry would be able to provide that. But it might even be an opportunity to invite Northern Health for a conversation with the board. I know they have met with the city. We're here, we're open, we're willing to have discussions.
One of the things I can do is I can put a question out on the BCSTA board chair discussion site and just ask if anybody does have within the district, say in Jackson site with proximity to schools, and if they have any before or after statistics. It is hit and miss what responses you get back, but it's something I'm quite happy to do, and I will follow through with that. Other thoughts? Great. On then, we don't have anybody here from the PRNTA tonight, or QP, or District Parent Advisory Council. So now we've hit the part of our agenda where there is an opportunity for both the press and the public to ask any questions that they have that are related to specifically the agenda items that we've discussed tonight. And you're kind of surrounding. I'm happy to acknowledge, and you, sir, had a question about recruitment and retention.
No, well, this was about whose responsibility it is to hire the teachers, because I remember one year when I was working for the school district, the principal hired a bunch of teachers from Alberta and out of whatever, but he never really got a chance to meet them because he got sick and this and that, but there's quite a few of them. But whose responsibility is that to hire their teachers?
I'll let you respond.
Sure. It's a bit of a shared relationship between the senior staff, so specifically our HR department, and our school principals. The school principals, we put up a posting for a job, let's say grade 3 teacher. We get some people that apply. The principal, if they ask for help, we have HR people that can do reference checks and interviews, but generally the school principal would conduct an interview of someone that's applied for a position in their school. Once they've conducted the interviews, they make a preliminary decision. Then they check with HR that we're following all of the rules around seniority, around who else has applied, and if they get the green light, the principal offers them the job. But it's actually a shared responsibility between the principals and human resources. Thanks for the question.
I've got a question, if it's all right.
Certainly.
When you're drafting their letter to Northern Health, would it be possible to include a question in there if they took into account that there's also 2 daycares and a half a block of the safe injection site and the cultural center, which a lot of children use of varying ages? I mean, it's not just kids that are immediately in school District 60, but it's young children that are also going to be there very soon as well. Like, it seems like a massive oversight that they would just completely not even take into account the demographics surrounding.
With the library being there too.
Yeah. As the kids in the daycares and the schools walk there all the time, right down that street.
So concerns about the demographics and the functions within the area surrounding the site.
Yeah, like there's a daycare right across the street from it.
Yes, sir. If I'm behind you and I've missed you, please jump up and speak.
Good evening, folks. I'm a country boy and I'm not really understanding why Northern Health is dictating stuff that's happening in our city and our school district and in our schools. There's incident was happening in Fort Nelson. We're at City Hall and they didn't seem to be happy about this safe injection site coming in, right? Sending letters out to kids to get needles without parent consent. I'm just wondering why we're letting them do that.
As a government to government body, the Minister of Health doesn't come in and tell me, for example, what needs to go into the capital bylaw that you got to listen to me read 3 times. They have their mandate and their portfolio, and we have our mandate and our portfolio. You're expressing a concern that in public health, in the Minister of Health's portfolio, they've decided that the city of Fort St. John needs a safe injection site. To my knowledge, there was no government to government contact about that. And so now we're hearing you people here tonight with a concern, and we will go through a process of raising the concerns from this table and from our public.
Like, I'm sure if you guys got together with the city and done it as a joint, and the other groups around here that are more than willing to step forward and help you guys get through this and get it done, get it shut down. Save our children. That's what we want. I don't think that's too much to ask from government to stay out of our lives and save our children from them.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
Madam Chair, fellow trustees, board members, most welcome guests. My name's Nigel. I've got a 4-year-old that goes to Hoot and Howl Preschool. I've got a 5-year-old that goes to Acole Central. And I'm concerned about the safety. Thank you, Trustee Witten, for speaking up about the concern for the children. That's all why we're here. I am a little bit inexperienced regarding city bylaws, but I was under the impression that the cannabis stores where drugs are dealt had to be a certain distance away from schools. I'm wondering if that was taken into consideration when they have forced safe injection sites into the community. That is something that you want to touch on in your letter. I'd be curious to know about that as well. Madam Chair.
I'm a wonderful letter to write, and I'm hearing what you say.
Thank you.
Okay? I'm behind you. Okay, thank you. Thank you. On my back, can you please?
My name is Mavis Sutherland, and I'm a concerned citizen. In regards to the safe injection site, thank you, Thomas, for bringing that up and being so concerned about the children, as us citizens are too. Maybe one of the things that could be asked in the letter would be maybe what the expected volume of clients might be to the safe injection site. How big that traffic is going to be. I mean, I would like there to be no safe injection site, but the reality is there's going to be one. And so super important to know what we're getting into. And I really like the idea of consulting other school districts that may have already dealt with the issue. And I am here for another issue as well. I worked at a pregnancy care center for 8 years, and in the news you will have all heard about the Fort Nelson School sex ed issue, and there was a card deck of provocative sexual slang terminology presented by a public health nurse to students in grade 8 and 9 at the Fort Nelson Secondary School. How many citizens are here about that issue tonight? Okay. So I had the privilege and responsibility of counseling and speaking with teen girls and teen boys, young women and young men, who were dealing with the consequences of sexual activity. Now, like unplanned pregnancy, sexually transmitted infections, and the immense mental and emotional fallout that comes along with that deeply, deeply impacts these young people's lives. Has anyone read the 4 sample cards that were published?
First of all, I'm sorry. You're very genuine in your concern. We are aware of those cards. To the best of my knowledge, they are not anything that has been used within our district. And we have processes in place around our family life. That's the old terminology, or personal health curriculum. It is not a topic on our agenda.
Yes,
and I
I
don't
realize
really
that.
want to shut you down, but by the same token, it isn't, to the best of my knowledge, a problem in our district, and I'm not sure that I want to be responding based on what happened in Fort Nelson. Do I want what happened in Fort Nelson happening here? Absolutely not.
Can it be added to the next agenda? And maybe find out if it has been taught in our district, because it's been around for about 10 years, and I'll be surprised if it hasn't been taught in our district.
All right, what we can do is we can certainly reach out to you with the concept of what it means to come and present as a delegation. And you, at any point in time, as a member of the public, are welcome to address questions to our senior staff. And our senior staff will answer some of those questions for you. It's not a case of needing to wait for a public board meeting for it to come forward. That is part of their job all the time, to be fielding those questions. And there are questions that they do field and deal with those kinds of things. If they were dealing with, you're going to help me here, Stephen, they were dealing with a whole bunch of questions coming on an area that they thought would be of concern and a governance issue, then that would be something that they would ask to be placed on our agenda.
Yeah, so happy to take questions. Generally speaking, it's from parents of students in our schools. So it doesn't mean your questions can't get answered. It just needs to come from someone, maybe you know, or if you don't have children already in the system, around questions related to that, and we're happy to respond. That might be a way to get more detailed information as far as what happens in curriculum or in schools or during presentations. Yeah, not a problem. You bet.
And Trustee Gillis would like to let everyone know that she was called back to emergency in Burns Lake and had to disconnect from our meeting, so.
Thank you.
I have a
Other
question.
questions?
I have a question.
Certainly.
How much does the provincial health have to do with the education of the injection sites here in Fort St. John, as well as sex education in the schools? How much can they override?
I'm not sure that your question, there's a question of overriding. A teacher may choose to invite someone into their classroom to assist with a presentation. And now I'm mixing metaphors and mixing hats because I was a principal for a long time. But if somebody from public health came in and said to me, I want access to your grade 6 class to do a presentation about such and such, they don't have that right. They have a right to access information related to who my student body is, to follow up on purviews that fall within their mandate, like immunization and dental health checks and eye checkups, but they don't have the right to walk into the school and make a demand of me in relationship to curriculum.
Speaking of immunizations, I had a parent reach out to me and ask me why her child's immunization records and alerting them to another immunization was directed to the child and not the parent. And that's becoming more and more. Parents are starting to say, why is this not being sent to us, the parents?
That's a situation I can't speak to. I don't have specific information related to that.
But you guys, the individual schools give out these letters to students.
So I guess to your first question or point is, from time to time, we are directed to pass on information, for example, including those letters, and that would be something that you would have to address specifically to Northern Health in terms of the process. So we were instructed to follow through on the process of providing that information to the families through the letters.
But shouldn't those letters be addressed to the parents and not the student?
It's actually surprises me that they were only addressed to the students.
They all are.
Yeah.
They all are.
Interesting. And that would have been the process that Northern Health would have devised.
But it goes through the schools.
Yeah.
That the children get them.
Yeah. So we have no option in how.
Completely bypassing mom and dad.
Yeah, I can't speak to that other than that's the process they came up with, and we were required to follow through on that process.
And we're kind of caught here because we do have a process in our regular agenda, but we don't usually have all of this public here. And the last thing that we want to appear to be doing is shutting down some conversation and shutting down questions from our public. But part of the reasons for the protocols and having a meeting and only accepting questions from the public related to the agenda is because then we're prepared to speak to them. You're raising a concern here tonight that I pulled back. I've been out of the school system as a regular classroom principal now for almost 5 years. I probably shouldn't have even answered your question based on my previous experience. I'm recognizing that and acknowledging that to my fellow trustees. That's the reason that questions related to just the agenda topics or coming and presenting through the concept of as a delegation and going through the process of presenting and coming and speaking to us that way are in effect, so that you're not putting a question out there and
I don't
going
mean to put you guys on the
No,
spot,
I know
but
you're
it
not.
just seems that Northern Health has kind of overstepped in a few things, like the safe injection site.
Yeah, and you're feeling that the safe injection site is an example of other things that are going on. And I'm absolutely getting the connection for you. I think you had wanted to speak, Mr. Sang.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate everyone's comments here tonight. One of the things that I would like to just sort of add into the letter is that the city bylaw states that it's a 200 meter from a school. 100 meter from a park for cannabis stores. And that was passed in the autumn last fall. The other thing I wanted to know is, I'm sure you guys have some sort of protocols in place in order to avert an issue like what happened in Fort Nelson. And are you able to, in that letter, just sort of direct Northern Health to say, hey, we have these protocols in place, and if you were to want to
No,
bring it
well,
to
if I'm going to write a letter related to the concerns that I'm hearing, sir, tonight, related to the safe injection site, that will be
So
where
they'll be
my top,
separated. Okay.
they will be separate.
Okay.
I'm hearing a concern about our health curriculum, how it's delivered, opt-out. That would be something that I think would have to come forward in a different manner to us.
I guess the last question I have is, I'm curious about a 3 reading and 1 meeting for a budgetary expenditure. Is that a normal process that you guys go through, or would there normally be, reading, allowing the public to find out about it, read up on it, and then be able to give feedback to yourselves? I don't know what your normal process is. It seems odd that you would do a 3 reading and 1 meeting.
The capital bylaw, basically, there are things that we would stagger our readings over, but the capital budget bylaw, and Angela's going to help me out here, we just got the letter from the ministry on March the 9th, and the projects that are involved in it are pretty set. There would not be any public feedback that's going to change what the ministry has allowed for us. So to do the 3 readings isn't violating a sense of involvement from the public. The sense of involvement from the public would be when we were preparing the capital plan that went forward.
Yeah, so we put the plan forward last September, and we just received which projects were approved. They don't really, this is really just, the bylaw needs to be submitted to the ministry so that they will release the funds to me so that we can start moving forward with the.
So there was a
the
public
project.
involvement in that process earlier on.
Trustee Campbell?
Yes, and if you notice tonight, we did have the motion that we could do all 3 readings in one night. And that's, we normally, if it's not something, if there's something that can be changed, or if there's something that we need more information, we only do the one reading, and then we wait until another. Sometimes it comes where we don't get the information until, and it has to go, have a deadline. So then that's why we have the motion. Can we have the 3 readings in the same evening?
It's March 31st, this has to be submitted by, doesn't it?
Yeah, because March 31st
So-
is the deadline for all budgets in BC.
But
We got
normally,
the letter March 9th.
That's full.
but normally we have 1 reading, and then the next meeting we have the next.
That's, I guess, it was about process. It's an odd thing to see that happen in a meeting, so.
Yeah, and great, thanks for the question. And where there are items such as the calendar that was put out, or for example, policy, which is really the decision-making process of the board, those have to go out for consultation to the public before they come back to the following board meeting. So where there are areas of consultation and input, those have to wait.
Yeah, you have a notice of motion for 30 days.
It's just due process I'm concerned about.
Thanks.
I'm doing the full circle.
Would there be a vote by the city on people, what they want is, if they're for or against the site, whereas wouldn't have other options? Like there's other options presented in the paper, like in the Alaska Highway News.
I honestly don't know the answer to that question.
Would you go to City Hall?
I would probably suggest that question would be fielded by the other body of government, the city. They'd be really happy to hear me say that.
They would do the exact same thing.
Maybe for a point of clarification on that, we were at the city meeting. I asked that of Trevor Bowen. The city had 0 input into the site or the location. It was picked, it was chosen, and that's where it was, period. What the problem is, everybody's recognizing an NGO as a governing body. NGO is simply non-health, they're just a non-governing organization. But we all recognize them as somebody has power. There lies the problem.
Matt, have you got any insight into this?
You don't get to do that at Hale. You don't get to do that. Sorry. Thomas?
The one thing that I would mention is, so as we sit here today, as mentioned right at the beginning, we're government to government. We're going to send out the letters on behalf of us. We can't choose what the city of Fort St. John does. If anybody is interested in seeing what the city of Fort St. John is doing, highly recommend, go to the meetings, chat with your city councilors, chat with your mayor. We can push where, we can't push them.
No, that's why I was just making the point there, they're not gonna do anything until. Well, wouldn't it be a good idea to team up with them and have this discussion?
It's about the kids. We want to protect the kids.
We have that message loud and clear. And there are times that we do government to government things. So at this point, we're going to suspend our regular meeting and we're going to move into camera. If I could have a mover and a seconder, please.
Just before that, Helen, so do you need a motion or are you okay with just writing the letter without a motion?
I am quite prepared to write a letter to bring back to you.
Okay, and you'll
meeting
give us a draft. Okay.
And you will get a draft, you will do whatever, and you can mark it up, you can do,
Right.
okay? I will bring it back to you for feedback. If you feel you need a motion to direct me to do that, I'm happy to entertain it.
I just wanted you to be comfortable.
Will the public get to hear that letter or see that letter?
I'll have to go back and see what our regular correspondence protocol is. You're asking me hard questions tonight.
Well, I'm thinking that.
We appreciate you.
We know you're gonna do a letter, we would just like to know what was in the letter and how it will work, and if it got to where it needs to be at.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think there's another question behind you.
Sorry.
Okay, as taxpayers, and as you can see, most of us here do not have children in the school system, but we do have grandchildren. Where as taxpayers do we go to voice, since you said that we have to talk to somebody who is in school to voice be our voice? Is there some place that's...
Well, I'm a grandparent, and I got a darn good grandparent voice, okay? And I can guarantee you got some other grandparents on this board.
Okay, but where do we go to voice our, besides here?
Ministry of Education.
Ministry of
MLA.
Have we been there?
Well, but I'm not saying it's going to be effective. I'm saying who you need to go to. So the right place for you would be the Ministry of Education, your MLA. We try and deal as much as possible with specific student-based incidents for their children.
We don't have to say that.
And we do have grandparents that are legal guardians, and they're afforded all the same interactions as a parent would be. Yeah, but it's a little hard, I get it. I get what you're saying.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll move to suspend that.
Seconded by Thomas. All in favor? All right. Leah, I'm going to ask you to stop the recording.
Thank you all for coming out.
Yeah, we do appreciate it. Some of us are learning. And I need a motion that the in-camera motions be brought forward for implementation. Moved by Ida, seconded by Thomas. All in favor? Carried. Could I please have a motion for adjournment? Moved by Thomas, seconded by Ida. All in favor? Leah, you may stop the recording.